Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Wayne County. We are a diverse congregation that welcomes you as you are, regardless of your age, ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, gender identity, economic status, or physical ability. We come together to seek deeper meaning and understanding from each other and the world around us. Your presence here today is a gift that brings us closer to that understanding. We are an active community that lives its values beyond the hours of Sunday service, and I would like to call your attention to the following. When the children and youth leave the service this morning and next Sunday, we will be working on preparations for our winter holiday pageant on December 11th. Any adults who are interested in working on this pageant with us are invited to join us when we sing them out. Every fourth Sunday, the UUs join the racial justice team on the square at 12 p.m. Today, Sunday the 27th, is our day. Join members of the racial justice team and other local advocates on the square to stand vigil for racial justice. Bring your umbrella. To help promote respect, understanding, and enjoyment of different cultures and traditions in our community, the UU will welcome all on December 9th for an international dance party from 7 to 11 p.m. We will play the top 3 dance videos from 25 countries, representing some of the many nationalities at OSU Worcester and in our community. Come to dance, come to listen, come to interact with a diverse group as we enjoy music from around the globe. Please see Martin Lubell if you have any questions. Martin, you want to wave? Okay. There will be an indoor caroling party Sunday, December 4th from 2 to 4. There will be music, cookie decorating, and refreshments, and hopefully decoration of the sanctuary. Come fa la la with us. If you would like to find out more about our activities, feel free to ask Karen Skubik, our membership coordinator, after the service.
Thank you, Janice. And as you see on the screen, it's time to welcome any visitors we have today. And we do have a couple, and I forgot to tell them that if you want to introduce yourself during this time, you can. You don't have to. But that way we can reach better after the service. And we also have a few folks that we haven't seen in a while. Hi, Debbie. Good to have you back here. And does anyone want to introduce themselves? And okay, down over here.
Good morning. My name is Bela. Grew up in Loudonville. Find myself living in Worcester. And my first time here. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bela. And I think it's Ruth Ann's maybe third time. So, okay. Very good. Anyone else? Okay. Well, hopefully if you see a face you haven't seen before, you'll welcome them after the service. Thank you all.
Now I would ask you to open your minds and silence your cell phones for our time together. Our chalice lighting this morning is Dreams by Black Elk, who was an Ogallala Sioux. A long time ago, my father told me what his father had told him, that there was once a Lakota holy man called Drinks Water, who dreamed of what was to be. He dreamed that the four-leggeds were going back to the earth, and that a strange race would weave a web all around the Lakotas. He said, "You shall live in square gray houses in a barren land." Sometimes dreams are wiser than waking. Let us now rise in body or spirit as we sing our opening hymn, "For the Beauty of the Earth." The music can be found in the gray hymnal, number 21.
Good morning. We have a moment now for a short story, and if anybody would like to come up closer and join me, you are welcome. There's plenty of room up here with me. Plenty of room up here with me. Our story today is called The Stream, and it comes to us from the Sufi tradition, which is in a thread through the Muslim faith. Our theme this month has been change. Believe it or not, November is almost over. And we have been looking at all the different ways that we could think about change this month. And I have a short story about a stream who has to think about what it needs to do to continue. So there's this stream, and it comes down from the mountains, and it goes past all sorts of landscapes you can imagine, right? It starts at the top. What is it at the top? Maybe a glacier, right? Down past the rocks, down first line of trees, maybe those are the evergreens or the firs, and on down and on down and on down. And it gets to the point, and it gets to the desert, and it tries to cross the desert. What happens? It dries out. Thank you, Willow. Yes, it dries out. So it backs up a little bit, says, okay, that's not working out for me. How am I ever going to cross the desert? I'm either going to start and I'm going to disappear, or I'm going to just fall and just kind of be like a watering hole that slowly dries up. So how am I going to do this? And there was a voice that kind of came across the desert and said that if the wind can cross the desert, you can cross the desert. And the stream says, well, the wind can fly. I can't fly. How's that supposed to work out for me? Says, well, that voice comes again and says, by just hurtling yourself into this issue, into this problem, hurtling yourself into this, you will never get across. You are either going to disappear or become a marsh. You must allow the wind to carry you across the desert. How is that going to work? Well, you must be absorbed into the wind. Absorbed into the wind. This was really not very acceptable to the stream. The stream did not like this idea. After all, it had never been absorbed before. It didn't want to lose its individuality. Makes sense to me. And once having lost its individuality into this, how would it ever regain it? How was that going to work? The wind, said the sand, performs this function. It takes up water, carries it across, and allows it to fall again. We all know that, right? That cycle. The stream says, how can I know that this is true? Well, it is so. It just is so. And if you don't believe it, you will just become a quagmire. You cannot, in either case, just remain the way you are. You must change. You must transform. Well, when the stream heard this and the echoes coming across the desert, the stream started to almost recollect an old story that might have come from the stream's ancestors. And the stream says, okay, I think I can do that. He kind of dimly remembered a state of this or some part of it when the stream had been held in the arms of the wind before. So the stream raised its vapor up and into the welcoming arms of the wind. And what did the wind do? Just kind of gently bore it up over the desert. And when they got over the desert, it let it fall softly as rain. And once again, became a rolling stream and began its journey back down from the top of a mountain. And it became a river again. That was a big leap of faith for that stream, right? To make that change just to be able to survive, to transform and trust that they could come back into themselves again. So we'll think about that if we're ever at a point when it seems there's no way out and we'd just rather lay there. I have those days, right? So thank you for sharing this story. Take this little bit of Sufi wisdom with you into your life, and we'll sing the children and the youth and any adults who want to join us in pageantry on out the room.
Our faith is centered in the belief that we can make this world a better place for all who dwell in it. In order to realize that vision, we need both the motivation and the means. Your donation helps the community put its faith into action by supporting our programming and facilities. This morning and throughout the month of November, donations that are not designated for another purpose will be split with the Immigrant Worker Project, Las Amigas. The offering will now be collected and gratefully received. Please join me in this unison reading. The words are on the screen. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. Let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others.
We take time out of each and every service to share with you joys and sorrows from the people of our congregation. And I have a couple of sorrows I'd like to share this morning. Doris Cannon's stepmother, Ruthie, had a stroke this week and is still suffering many strokes. Also, her brother David has COVID again, which has prevented him from getting his eye shot, also his radiation for his cancer. So please keep these folks from Doris's family in your thoughts, if you would. Our second sorrow comes from Sharon Delgadillo, whose mother is in the hospital and is not doing well. So any thoughts and that you can, healing thoughts that you can send to Sharon's mother in the hospital would be greatly appreciated. We also want to take time to talk about the shootings that happened this week, and it seems like every week we have a shooting somewhere. And it's getting very tiresome to talk about that every week from this pulpit. And we hope that the new year will maybe bring us better things when it comes to that. My joy this morning is I spent a wonderful, wonderful holiday with my family. No drama, no arguing, just very good fellowship with friends and family, and some good food. And that is my joy for today. And now we would like to take just a few minutes. If you have a joy or a sorrow you have not shared with us, but if you would like to go put a stone in the water, you may do so now. And may I add one more thing to our joys and sorrows? If you have concerns that you would like to discuss with anyone from the Care Committee, please approach any of us at any time during the service, after the service, and we would be happy to talk to you about this. Blessed be.
Our reading today is taken from the Native Americans. There is a legend throughout New England about the first encounter with Europeans. Forewarned by a dream, a child left his village and climbed up to a high place overlooking the ocean. Once there, he glimpsed a marvelous sight far out in the water. As soon as he saw it, he rushed back to the village to tell of this strange happening. A huge floating island is approaching the land, he cried. It is covered with tall trees, wrapped in vines, and topped with billowing clouds. Bears wander across its surface, and thunder and lightning call from its depths. Not long after the child's first sighting, the island came close to shore, and official greeters from the tribe went out in canoes to meet the bears. In time, they became aware that the beings possessed human qualities, albeit very hairy. Yet they possessed qualities that seemed decidedly unhuman, such as choices of food and drink. Early doubts about the colonists' feeding habits disappeared, especially since the settlers themselves adopted several of the Indian dishes, from clam bakes to baked beans. And if I may add, that is a tradition in New England that continues to this day.
I hope you all had a pleasant holiday, as I did. Last week, Jenny Papp had talked to us about our misconceptions regarding the first Thanksgiving. Now, Thanksgiving wasn't really a holiday until Abraham Lincoln declared it so, and it was supposed to be a day of thanks. And how it morphed into Pilgrims and Indians and all sharing this meal in wonderful, wonderful harmony is still beyond me. But what I found amazing is the Pilgrims left Plymouth Rock in England, and they landed at Plymouth Rock. What are the odds? Seriously, what are the odds of that happening? But they landed in Plymouth Rock, and then she gave us this visual of the gangplank coming down, and all the pilgrims coming off with their suitcases and their tools, and setting up their commune, I guess it were. But what I find interesting is the Native Americans, when they went out to greet them, should have just given them food and said, stay on the boat and then go back to where you need to go, and life would have been a lot better for them. But they came, they thought, prepared for this change. Were they prepared? Not so much. They brought the tools of their trade. They were cobblers, they were coopers, they were haberdashers, they were dressmakers, and blacksmiths, but nobody thought about growing food. They didn't know about the harsh winters in the Northeast because no one had been there to go back and tell them about the harsh winters in the Northeast. So they weren't prepared. They didn't know how to grow food. They didn't know how to preserve food. They didn't know what to expect was the problem. So how can you prepare for something you don't know what to expect? So they got there and found out that they couldn't go down to the local farmer's market and buy their food, and were to the point of starving when the Native Americans did help them out with food, taught them how to grow food, how to preserve food. And the Native Americans also had an idea about the land different from what the Pilgrims did. The Pilgrims were used to working on someone else's land or owning land, and the Native Americans thought of their land as being, how could you own land when the flea on a dog doesn't own the dog. So they were, needless to say, tricked into giving up their lands for trinkets and whatnot. They were so unprepared in the case of Jamestown settlement that they resulted in cannibalism at one point in time. And if you've never been to Jamestown settlement out on the East Coast, I strongly advise you to go. They're doing archaeological digs there, and what they're finding is absolutely amazing. So they brought a lot of the foods that the Native Americans have given them into their diets, as Janice read, about baked beans and clam bakes and these type of things. And then those things would soon become commonplace in their own diet, which was wonderful. And these are just a few of the changes that took place when the Pilgrims first arrived. Now, the indigenous people, they had no idea for the change they had to prepare for, because they were unaware of the things that were going to happen. But they found that these Pilgrims took their land, ate their food, ran them out of their, needless to say, their own culture in a lot of respects over the centuries, and there were a lot of horrors that the indigenous people needed to endure over the next few centuries, and we all know how that turned out. Every treaty was pretty much broken. But there was a treaty signed in 1935 with the Cherokee people. And the Cherokee, it was said that the Cherokee tribe, Cherokee Nation, would have one member in Congress, not a voting member, but a voice for the Cherokee Nation. Our Congress is going to vote on this before the end of the year. 187 years later, the Cherokee tribe has chosen someone to be that person in Congress. Let's see if that happens. It's only a few years late. So those images that we were taught as children of the Pilgrims, the Native Americans, eating this large meal in harmony, we know as adults this is not what happened, or at least some adults know that. But I think when we think about change, we think about changes maybe in our own lives, and the things that have happened in our own lives. And how do you prepare for those things? Let's take another example of this building. We had started this process some years ago, and we had asked the congregation pretty much 3 questions. What do we have? What do we need? And what do we want? And of those 3 questions, the congregation came back with many, many, many things that they felt we needed in the expansion of this building. Excuse me. So then we started designing. And we looked at our budget and how many people had pledged to give money and how much they were going to give. So we looked at our budget. Then we started redesigning. And then we started cutting. And then we'd look at the budget again, and we brought it back to the congregation. Redesigning again, the whole 9 yards. And then finally the project got started. And then when we were ready to start, we had to redesign again because we wanted to do the whole building at once because of COVID. We couldn't be in here. So why not do the whole thing at once as opposed to doing it in stages, which would have actually cost us more money? Now, because of COVID, what did we do? We had to get this started and started quickly because prices for lumber and paint and cement and all of those wonderful things that we needed for this building started to escalate. So we had designed it using SIP panels, the same thing that we built the original building with. And if people who do not know what a SIP panel is, it's 2 layers of oriented strand board with a fairly thick amount of styrofoam in between it. And that's how the first building was put together. That's how we designed this building until we found out that we had an 18-month wait for SIP panels, and they were going to be a lot more expensive than we had anticipated. So what happened? We went back to the architects and said, okay, how about if we do stick built? So they, again, redesigned the building using stick built as you would build a house. And then we started. Now, going from SIP panels to stick built saved us $65,000. Which we were really happy about. And we could get the lumber, and it happened quickly. So as we were still moving along with our construction project, we started in March of 2020, and we came back into this building in March of 2021. The build was supposed to take anywhere from 6 to 8 months. It took a year for us to gain occupancy because of supply chain issues, because of COVID, because of all kinds of different reasons that we all understood, but we were still anxious to get back in here. So we had an expansion committee who had many professionals who understand building big projects. We had a lot of knowledge in that expansion committee. We also had architects who were some of the best in the business. We had engineers who were some of the best in the business. And who else did we have? We had, let's see, I'm getting there, just a second. Oh, construction people, duh. Our construction manager, construction company, sorry. I had a senior moment there. And these are all some of the best people in the business. And still, there were things we didn't prepare for that still needed to be fixed when we moved in. We tried to look at every single contingency. And Peg's looking at me and she's smiling, she's nodding her head, and I know Janice is back here nodding her head too, yeah. We tried to look at everything, didn't we? Right down to the colors and the drawer pulls and the whole 9 yards. We still forgot stuff, and we thought we were prepared for change. But now we're sitting here in this building, and there's still one little item that needs to be taken care of from the construction aspect. But the facilities folks, Juan, thank you, and we've got Mike Nussbaum, and we've got Jay Clemmy, and myself, and Tom Gross. We've taken care of the things that the facilities need to take care of. And as new things crop up, we deal with them. So that's the big change that we went through as a UU community. And the last thing I really want to talk about is changes we, again, think we can anticipate, but we don't. I retired in May of 2017, fully retired. I'd spent 43 years in the healthcare industry, was anxious to get out of the healthcare industry, don't want to go back to the healthcare industry, but I was very happy to retire. I was 62 when I retired. And then we were counting down the years and then the months and the day that my wife Bonnie would retire. And COVID hit, of course, she was working from home, which meant she was there all the time, but she was working, so she really didn't get under my feet or bother what I did on a daily basis, you know. She'd occasionally come out for lunch, and that was it. So we were all excited about her retiring, and I was excited about her retiring, and she was excited about her retiring, and then the countdown finally started in January of 2021. She had 11 months to work, then 10, and it went very quickly. And finally on December 17th of 2021, she retired and drove me nuts. She didn't mean to. She truly didn't mean to drive me nuts. But having her under my feet all day long totally messed up my schedule. She had no plans on what to do when she retired because we couldn't go anywhere still. It was wintertime. We still had the neighbors to take care of next door. We still had snow to blow. We had all those things to do, but we couldn't really go anywhere because the government, when they owe you money, they're not too quick about paying you. So the money that she thought she was going to get in 10 days for her 48 hours of vacation time that she had, 480 hours of vacation time that she had, and she was making more than $50 an hour, so do the math. They said that would come in 10 days. It didn't come in 10 days. It came in 10 weeks. And thank goodness we had enough savings to cover all of our bills and keep us in the lifestyle to which we had become accustomed, but, you know, less. And then finally in February, once everything was done, and she finally, of course that was a stressor on us, so finally she was then getting her retirement, she got her vacation pay, and everything was great and wonderful and hunky-dory, and it really wasn't. We started snipping at one another, which we'd never done. We'd been together 29 years. We never snipped at one another. But we were not used to being together 24/7. So my daughter, in her infinite wisdom, and it was a wise move, suggested or made plans to go take the kids out to southwestern Utah for spring break. And we went along. We'd never been there. She wanted to go as a family, so we all went. And that change of scenery, that beautiful, beautiful scenery, we had a chance to talk and say, you know, something's not going right here. What is it that we need to do here? So we talked a great deal. We hiked, swam in the pool, did some more hiking, and we came back with a better attitude. We came back not wanting to really kill one another, and life has been good. But again, that's a change we thought we had prepared for, that we hadn't. Maddie and Tim, I'm sure you had the same problem, you know, after Tim retired. No, seriously, when one retires early, it's difficult. And others of our friends had the same problem. One would retire early, and they kind of got into a rhythm, got into a routine, and then the other person's there and then getting under your feet. But anyway, so we solved that problem. So we look forward to the same things now. We enjoy the company of friends and family. We enjoy the company of our UU community. Bonnie even took a job here for a while to help fill in until Joanna was hired. And so everything has worked out very well. And as I sat around the table and I looked at my folks on Thanksgiving, I was enjoyed by the warm embrace of family and friends. I was thankful for each and every one of them. I was thankful, and I wanted nothing more than to share a meal together. And that's really what the holiday's about, being thankful for what you have a roof over our head, food to eat, clothes to wear. How very grateful should we be for those things when there are a lot of folks that don't have those things? It's not about made-up history about Pilgrims and Native Americans sitting down to eat big turkey on the end of November, even though turkey probably was in their diet because it was local game. Many are not as lucky as we are. They're victims of hate, of gunfire, of bigotry. And how do we change that? as much as we want to change that. How do we change that? It can start with each and every one of us. A single act of compassion goes a long way. And hopefully that single act of compassion can move us forward to other people copying that same act of compassion. We can hope that it spreads like a virus, those acts of compassion. Because it should. It's the only thing that's going to change how we are right now. And it starts with each and every one of us. And we cannot lose hope. We must always hope for a better tomorrow. Blessed be. Sing a song, shall we? Hymn number 69 in the gray hymnal, Give Thanks. Benediction today is taken actually out of our gray hymnal. Beauty is before me, and beauty is behind me. Above me, below me, hovers the beautiful. I'm surrounded by it. I am immersed in it in old age. I shall walk quietly the beautiful trail. In beauty it is begun. In beauty it is ended.